walls around us. We can go to the right, to the left. And anytime you see, you can click on that individual painting and you will get a bio of the artist.
Hi. Is Tim awake already or not?
Yeah, he's awake.
Okay. Oh. It's not dangerous, I think.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, can I just do the dressing?
Yes. It's going to take me a minute to get. 2 minutes?
Okay.
Please, 2.
Okay. Okay.
Oh. This is Sarah. Tim's granddaughter, huh?
How do you feel to draw?
No.
Neuromancer, that was the book that made cyberspace an idea with a background. But I think it was Linz, the Ars Electronica Festival in 1990, in Linz in Austria, where all the people that came together that now constitute cyberspace. That is, Bill Gibson was there with his wife, and Bruce Sterling was there, Tim was there, John Perry Barlow was there, Sue was there, from Vincent John Vincent. Many people that in those days were working on the early versions of virtual reality, but they came together and there was this consensus. And the consensus was not what you think, maybe this was a big conference with speeches. No, this happened in very small brown type of cafes in Linz, where we all sat on the table and drank Austrian beer and talked about cyberspace. And I think that there a feeling came to happen that this was important. And this was one of the events that led to later to the founding of the EFF by John Perry Barlow. It led to other events in Holland, in Amsterdam. We had a Galactic Hacker Party and other things. But it really came together, I think, in Linz because all the people were there. So cyberspace was not an idea that was only happening in non-real time, but it had to have a combined energy. And I think that was the first time when all these people came together and talked Gerald Lanier was there with his whole crew, and there was really very hot debate about what this would mean. Unfortunately, the idea that we had in those days about virtual reality being really like a psychological evolutionary jump did not happen. You have to realize in those days the internet only existed in the minds of, well, it existed as a university network, but not what we know now to be internet. But so what was there were only ideas, concepts, but in the next 5 years they happened to become a reality. And cyberspace now is of course the internet with millions of subscribers and people using it, and it's growing to include not only text but visuals and video and sound. And I think that was the time when I first felt this itch of something is gonna happen. Cyberspace is the thing of the future. There's another side to the story, and that's now we're 5 years into cyberspace then, and I find it a little bit disappointing. The net itself has become a massive warehouse of data with very little information. I mean, there's a fundamental difference between data and information, because this is the image I use. The internet at the moment, especially the World Wide Web, is it like you take a little town square and you get all the books of the world and you pile them up on the town square and you get all the people around and you say, look, this is wisdom. But of course it's not. Theoretically the wisdom is in there, but it isn't really. Some people will pick out a book here and there, look and learn something, but the idea that this whole pile of data really is meaning something is a fallacy. Only if we find ways and means of making the data really touch us, it will become information. Now this is not a new concept. I mean, Claude Shannon, who dreamed up the whole idea of information as a scientific concept with, you know, a sender, transmitter and receiver, he said, if it doesn't change anything at the side of the receiver, nothing has happened, you just have noise. And that's how I feel the internet to be at the moment. It's a lot of noise, a lot of seemingly interesting information, but it's not information, it's data. And in Holland I have an internet cafe since about a year, in a cyber center called Myster in Amsterdam. And there we find out that the time it takes for people to get used to the internet, but also get a little bit bored by the World Wide Web, has gone from something like 2 to 3 months now to 2 weeks. They get on the internet, get on the World Wide Web, and for 2 weeks they're very happy and they tell their friends that this is great, that this is the greatest thing that happened to them. And after about 2 weeks they realize that email is good and they still will use that for a long time, but that the World Wide Web is kind of, yeah, what can you really do with it? So this is a bit of the disappointment that the promise that we had of cyberspace to be a unifying force. People even talked about a social change agent, about new democracy where we could make better contacts between, say, politicians and the average citizen. Has not yet happened. It has not materialized into a better communication system. What we see now is people that have these, well, I call them the email stripes. You know, they have an ISDN address, or they have even I don't know, a video telephony address, and they have an email, and now everybody has a homepage. And the only thing that happens is that it makes them feel better. They feel better than the next guy because they have an email address. So I call this trend techno-fascism. We exchange our inferiority complex for a superiority environment. It really, we feel better because we have an email address. We have these techno-fascistic stripes on our shoulders and we're better. That's wrong. That's not the way it should go. So some of these movements like the EFF or the Digital Citizens Movement in Holland is talking about getting more equal access so that everybody should have it. So it's not like you feel better, but that it's just something everybody should have a right to have. And you can achieve that by, say, public email things in say in post offices, something like that, but a way for everybody to get an email address and get in touch with other people through this medium. Unless we reach that, we will have a society where we will haves and have-nots, which is really dangerous. That's the danger that we see now with cyberspace. Up till now, it has been some kind of pyramid, multi-level marketing trick. If you find 4 more people that you can get interested into the internet, you're better off. And you're basically better off because you feel better. You tell them how to do it. And then they find 4 more and so on. And so we have come to tens of millions of internet believers, really. But I fear, and that's what I see, because of the internet experience we have. We have a fairly large site, 5,000 pages. I have computer magazines about the internet. We have an internet cafe. And what we see that the promise it is not delivered, really. People don't change to the internet. Some of us do. I mean, for me, it's very handy to get in touch with my American friends, and email is a great thing also in business. Absolutely great for your internal organization. I think one of the great advantages of the internet is really the HTML language, where you're forced to get this on the edge between your internal organization information and the external one. There is now a new standard called HTML, which has form, which has a little bit desktop publishing capabilities, which has you can include video. It's very good to reorganize your internal structure as far as your data go. So there are advantages, but Joe Sixpack is not using it. Joe Sixpack doesn't want this huge, humongous amount of data. He wants something that he can handle. And that's why I believe that unless we come to a real local application of this global medium of the internet, we will nothing will really happen. If we can come to the point where there is a direct interaction between what you do on the internet and what happens in real life. And let's give a simple example. If you don't know what the guy around the corner has for the day special, or what the breakfast special is close by, what is in the local cinemas, what gigs are happening, those are the things that will change our real life, which will have an impact on what we do. If we could look at the internet and check out those things very easily about what happens around us, then it will really catch on. Then the average citizen has something to do. Then it's useful. Now it's just a mind trick. It's a very nice tool for people who believe in this, I know so I am. But most people don't live like that. Those are the scholars, those are the people that go to libraries. Normal people, I do, or I feel, or I see, so I am. So that's a different market, really a different need in the people. And I feel that the designers of the internet really have to look into that, to make it more of a local medium than a global medium. And if you want to do something with the internet, act local. Think global, but act local. I mean, this is an old adage from the New Age people, but I think it really would help the internet that we come to really small initiatives on that level.
Okay, I thought we'd talk a little bit about our newest, latest, most happening project, the website.
Yeah.
Now, as far
Before we do this, I'd like to say in public that my partner in the many things we're doing now, the website and the living books and the CD-ROMs, and not to mention an oil well we're digging out there, and a gold mine. He's my partner, and it's a great, great joy to me to have a son who is I admire. He tells me what to do. He's the perfect son. He bosses me for my own good only, and he's thinking about me a lot of the time. I thank you, and I love you, Zach.
Thank you.
And I think I'm the happiest father in the world at this moment.
Thank you.
Probably change in an hour.
So basically, my observations of the web are, it's the fastest growing population in the world right now.
Oh.
The World Wide Web.
It's faster than the spread of
Ebola.
Ebola, syphilis, name it all together. And it can't be
and
cured.
when
There's no cure for the open brain, right?
And what amazes me really is that you've been talking about the web in so many words for about 10 years in terms of designing your own electronic environment.
Mhm.
So now that its time has come, what is the most important function of the web?
Well, Marshall McLuhan, the great philosopher, said it all. We have these enormous brains, 120 billion. You know, you've heard this 1,000 times, but, and we're not using our brains, and we're learning now how to operate our brains, and you have to use electricity. The language of the brain is electrical pulses. So we're using spotlights and neon, and we're using firecrackers, and we're using computers and strobes, and we're using virtual reality. We're out there in the electric world, right?
Yep, yep. And what's even better is now, I mean, you have your own domain now, Leary.com. Boy, I mean, talk about, you know, ego. Leary.com. So
I'm one of 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 people. Anyone can get a .com.
yeah, 1.
Yeah.
1.3
Manson.com, right?
Why isn't it
OJSimpson.com.
Leary.edu?
How about OJ.com? What's it?
Why isn't it Leary.edu?
EDU.
Edu.
Education.
I don't believe in education.
So what's, now that we have, you know, your own domain, what's the power of...
It's not my own. I don't argue with
Well-
it. It's not my domain. You
Well,
run
it's-
it more than I do. It's yours more than
Yeah,
mine.
okay.
You know how to operate
Okay, well,
it.
now-
If I want to use it, I have to go to you.
Well, now that we have...
And whose domain is it? It's Zach's domain.
Well,
And as your father, I hereby give it to you forever. And you are stuck with this wonderful window on the world out there. It's yours, boy.
okay, well, now that we have our own domain,
There we go. Okay. If you can change the pronouns from
personal...
yours to ours, or from you to we, yeah, done what you should do.
Getting there.
No
So-
more war between you and me,
No.
right?
Now that we have our own domain, what's
Yeah. Are you listening, Bosnia and Serbia?
what's
Hey, Palestine, Israel, you listening?
I don't want to make it seem like a power trip, but what's the power of it in it, and what do you want to do with our domain? So basically, let's tell us about the website.
About 100 years ago, human beings were discovering how to use electricity to communicate. And the most incredible, miraculous, evolutionary tool was the home telephone. And when they wired it, these businessmen who didn't care about, they didn't realize whether they're so greedy. They didn't realize if they put an electric communication device in everyone's home, that they would use it, not for the army or the Navy to do their job, but to gossip and to talk and teenage kids flirting. They empowered people with the telephone. The implications of the telephone we don't understand because we Americans are so used to it. In the Soviet Union, to the day, there's not a telephone book for the city of Moscow. Or maybe it is now, but in other words, the one thing a dictator always did in the past was bug the phones. Bug the phone. Tap the wire.
Control the data.
That's right, yeah. Censor it and control it. And also spy on it.
And one of my favorite quotes of yours has always been, "Who controls your screens controls your brains." And now that we're controlling a screen,
Mhm.
I guess we're going to be controlling some brains too.
Your own mind, see.
Our own.
This word control has nothing, I hate the word control, except self-control. Don't you try to control me and I won't control you, but I'm trying to...
Rather than control, it's we're programming our own screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're programming. We're not
To
controlling.
communicate, to communicate. Actually, our website serves the function of a network television broadcasting place, because we can do things like that in live video, and it's being seen by a kid in Tokyo. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Thrilling.
Absolutely. And what I also like about our website so much, which is different than other websites, is well, the interface. Our interface is so well, it's so personal. You know, I mean, here we are. We're bringing people into our home here.
Have you seen the interface? Yeah. You click on the outside, you click on the door, you come in, and
So I think it's really so important to have a personal interface. And what made interpersonal? What made you decide to really? What made you come up with the idea to use our home as the navigational tool?
Well, to go back a step, since 1950, when I was a psychologist at Berkeley and then later at Harvard, I've been obsessed with interpersonal relationships. That means the most important thing about you over there is not that you're friendly or that you're depressed. It's what you and I are doing together that counts, because see, electrons only exist when they're being received back and forth. It's that field between us and the field between, that's what counts. Now, I may have in my mind all these, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I want to fuck you. Forget that, see, we're talking about it. And that's the background. Interpersonal relationships are now possible between people that could never relate before. Language, geography, class, status. You can give the web, you can be anyone. I can be Marlene Dietrich, right? Jason Clark Gable. The point is, it's empowering the individual to communicate. And that's the key. The computer, the poor tech-mech engineer nerds from the 19th century who run the world now from MIT think in terms of machines. And I can't believe, I just read last night, this top hip internet philosopher. They said the relationship, the interactivity is between the user and the computer. That's not interaction, that's reaction. Sure, the computer can react to what I do. The computer is such a good reactor that she can beat a master at chess. You know why? Because that's all, chess is. But the computer can't read, interact.
Right.
The computer, now listen to this, the computer is a device to put people into communication with each other, telecommunication, in full-time color video around the world for less money than a telephone call cost 30 years ago.
One of the great interpersonal dynamics of the website is the living book.
Oh, man.
So what is a living book?
The living book is a device, or is a way allowing people to communicate at the level of creativity. It violates all of the 19th and 20th century conditions about book. If I write a book, it's mine. You're not supposed to change. You're not supposed to write on the printed word. It's my book. And it's like the illuminated manuscript. Nolo tangere, you cannot touch it because it's my book. The living web, I'm putting a couple of pages of my book. You put a couple of pages of your diary up there. It's out there. And then we have the thing where you can react to it. You can comment on what I did or what you wrote.
Or edit it.
You can edit it.
And I had this I had this conversation about the living book on the philosophical grounds with a friend of ours who's a rare book specialist.
Oh, he drove him crazy.
It absolutely drove him crazy that, here we are, what's a good example? We can put, Tom Sawyer on the web here and have it become a living book.
We can have one of his books that he's going to sell.
Yeah, one of his
That's
books
the problem.
that he's going to sell, and that, we can change Tom Sawyer's and, his adventures and, make it completely different. Like, this really freaks out the fundamentalist paper, the pulpsters. So I kind of see the living book as, kind of revolutionary.
Just nice for you.
It's pretty revolutionary. How do you, you obviously have no attachment to any of your books, and so why is that?
Well, I love my writing. I'm tremendously passionately. I love my writing. I don't like the idea that it's frozen. I wrote some wonderful stuff 20 years ago, but if I could just revise it a little, so you have to keep revising it. I'm sorry, the Bible, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my point was to him that, books, especially like an old classic like Tom Sawyer or something, was written so long ago now that it's so wonderful prose and everything, but in a way it's kind of, I don't want to say it's not valid anymore, but we can really hip it out and everything. So I think that's the really important thing in a living book, is you can contemporize it.
Mark Twain is the person that I really know very well last night.
And he would love it.
He would love it.
Huh.
I say, hey, Mark, we're taking Tom Sawyer. You know where it starts off? You're the widow's, Huckleberry Finn. Huck, remember you're up there? We changed it now. You leap out with a flying saucer. Is it okay? And Mark Twain is laughing his head up. Good. Knock those librarians and pompous writers off their ass. Rewrite it. Every kid out there, rewrite Huckleberry Finn. You can be Tom Sawyer. You can be Becky Thatcher. Come on. And now you can have pictures on the screen. Okay. You want to be Tom, but you can be Tom with a tuxedo and a that.
Mhm.
You want to be Becky, you can be Becky or what? Marlene Dietrich or what do you want? Because it's video. That's the thing about it.
Mhm. And it leads us.
I can have a picture of God the Father, the Almighty Killer that ruined everyone and killed us in a flood. And we can put his face there, put a mustache on him,
And there he is.
make him look gay. Father Almighty in heaven is gay. Yeah, that's an improvement.
So, obviously, the way, you've written so many books now, 30, 40 books, whatever, I've lost count, that the format is really changing. And
Let's not use books, use yards,
Yards.
linear yard. I've written about 15 linear yards of wood pulp.
Pulp.
They kill trees for this.
But
I've got an enormous redwood tree. My books, I apologize.
since we're trying so hard to get away with that, but we can't just quite do it yet, so we had to put out another book. And here, another yard.
We're here to talk about the book.
A yard.
We're going to hype the book.
The book.
Good.
Here it is. Timothy Leary's Surfing the Consciousness, a graphic novel by Huck Getty Mellon von Schilleberg.
Schleberger. That means, Schleberger means bridge. Oh, yeah. The berries.
So here it is. Here's the number one. Put up by Last Gasp.
Ron Turner of Last Gasp, who does comic books, he did the Ralph Akram, classic, Robert Williams.
He did your old comic books too.
I'm honored that Last Gasp, who's the king of the comic people, published my book.
Well, what do you want to tell us about Surfing the Consciousness? Why, it's really, I'm sure it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and
show it to them.
It's,
Turn the few pages.
I can't really call it, it's more than a comic book, it's more than a book, it's an adventure. A wonderful young man by the name of Howard Hollis did the graphic design for it.
All of the graphic design here, Lisa and Wallaby, his name?
Yeah, Brian and Lisa.
Brian and Lisa.
And Howard
And
Hollis.
Kane and Howard Hallis and Karen Ferris, a lot of wonderful, Robert Williams
Mhm.
helped to make this a comic book.
So you see what we're doing here with even living books. There's Andy Warhol with his brain open. So tell us about Surfing the Consciousness,
The book.
the book, the yard.
This is, I'm sure, one of the few first books.
Mhm.
Every page is a computer screen. It's got that, shows that, the scroll bar and the menu bar.
File
see?
edit service terminal at the top.
And this young man, he's about 35 years old, he's middle age. He's half black, half white, half gay, half straight. He's manic and very depressive. He's got all the contraries and really tremendously smart. And this is a wonderful expression for me. It allows me to say things that I would never dare say as a tax-paying citizen. I invented this character, half black, half white, half gay, half honest, half straight, sad, happy. It's a wonderful device to be as crazy, wild, street smart, hip as I want to be without taking any responsibility for it. And being outrageous and wonderful.
And all the graphics within it have how do they relate to the text?
And remember, everything is interactive and means we all share. Now, I worked on this text about 10 years, remember? But it was ahead of its time, it was too far up. we finally got a wonderful publisher to do it, and a wonderful crew of artists, Howard Holland. So I gave them the script, and I said, no, put a illustration for this line, and we hypertext stuff. See, we color all the text words. So you click on that, and you get the graphic. And Howard came back, got 100 paintings, which I bring it. Here's one of them. Here's Howard Hollis. Can you imagine that? He did that in one night. Isn't that amazing?
All the different great comic book characters of our time.
And he's acting like a computer. See, he is arranging this the way a computer so becomes a very, very, very. There's a nice thing about any work of art now. You should be able to turn it upside down. It still makes as much because we're not trapped to the gravity up down. But this is this kind of stuff that Howard does. It was a disaster. He had some stuff that I've got to show you. This is a wonderful, inventive, crazy mind. If you take that penises. There's a penis wired up to all these scientific tests. Would you take the cigarette? Throw it away. Throw the whole thing away in the kitchen. I'm sorry about that. I do it myself. And all these, look at that little crazy little guy with a penis, and he's insulting. He's got the Pope with a swastika. And well, Howard, it's wonderful, but it's not my book. And then I realized, perfect. I have my version of the book in text, and this extremely intelligent, crazy, far-out artist has his version, and instead of telling him he should change for me, let's read it together. And there's certain places, I even talk to him in the book. For example, there's one place where I'm talking about elegant German in Hamburg in tuxedos, and they're using very advanced drugs for sexual purposes. And these are elegant, eh? And Howard gives me a picture of, what was that, how do you change that? Oh, he had two children with goggles. I said, Howard, you're supposed to be decadent, voluptuous Germans, and you got two little altar boys here. And he, okay, I'll do it for you, and then he changes it so that he takes the altar. Oh wait, he takes the altar boy. No, it was a priest, a Hindu priest fucking a Hindu nun. Remember that? And he took them with the tuxedos on the bodies of the Hindus. Now that's totally insane, and it's wonderful. And it's an example of how two different creative individuals can interact. And there it is, you can go back and forth. And another thing I should say, which I'll say, is that when we say we're gonna still use books, we're not attacking books. Books will be used. It's not either or. If you use a computer, it doesn't mean you don't read. If you like pasta, it doesn't mean you can't like steak.
We're trying to avoid the Woody Allen syndrome.
Aldous Huxley said that over and over again to me and to everybody. It's not both and. No, it's not either or. It's both and. And that's this book is not my book. The amount of creativity and people that threw stuff into this is wonderful.
This is really the blueprint for the living book, because, like you said, this is your text, and then Howard and everybody else, people from Ram Dass to Robert Williams to Susan Sarandon, made it their own. So as you can see, it's like a computer screen. So basically, this is what a living book will look like, or you or I.
They don't have to be a big screen now.
Oh, no. I mean,
It doesn't mean a screen, you change it.
No. So.
Well, that's the pitch on the book.
Okay.
That's a good hustle for a solo book.
Yeah.
It comes out in a couple
Sell
weeks.
2 million after that.
And that's it. That's all I have to say.
No, I love your hair.
Oh, thank you.
Have people seen your hair? Would you come here just a minute? Come on. Oh yeah, just look at her hair. Look at that smile. Look at that. Isn't that great? See, that's interactive. If you're going to film me, you better
Gotta
get ready
be
to have
ready
your
to
own
go.
puss and pan and face on camera because it's interactive.
That's true.
And you're not going to make a victim of. We're going to do it together, right?
Yes.
And the key to everything.
Like that.
Don't be a victim. Religion wants to make you feel shameful. Doctors want to make you feel
Sick.
Don't listen to any of these experts. Think for yourself with your friend. Don't do anything on your own. And if you're going to be individual, if you're going to think for yourself, if you're going to be courageous, get out there, you know, do it with the help of your friends. If you're going to be original, creative, and new and innovative, you got to have someone that says, "Hey, Tim, you're going too far there."
Come back.
You got to. And the more responsibility you take for your own stuff, the more you need partners and friends. And I thank you. And I thank Luc Sala from Holland.
There is one. Can you talk about your new video that's coming out?
The
Is
How
it-
to Operate Your Brain?
Yeah, the part.
That's out.
Okay.
it's out
can
now.
Talk a little bit about that because we'll intercut that.
Cut
in.
from it. Cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you get a copy of the video when you show it here?
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to stretch on it. I'm still on. This is, I think, the finest gift that any publisher has given to an author. Can you imagine? He thought he was getting a bunch of words of black and white, and he made this possible. I thank you, Ron.
Well, it's a beautiful book, and it's a good tribute to your writing.
Feel that. And we talked about Howard. You can't move that pen on Howard now.
Howard
Howard did a pretty.
Howard, you're on TV.
Howard did this genius stuff in
Howard, I talked to them about how
a sense, and how this book has evolved in a couple of years is amazing. And everyone's always in a rush to get something out, and this is a testimony of why the rush is not important. That's why you have to wait till it's ready to come out. Because otherwise we would have had something with a very inferior product in terms of the enjoyment of reading it. It's one of the few times you can actually pick up a book and get a sense of another medium through the book. Often people have been saying lately, well, books are passé, pretty soon everything will be on TV, and you can take monitors around or computer screens. You still can't pick up a computer screen and flip it like this. You can't kind of just hold it. There's something almost holy about it.
you can't use it in the bathroom if you run out of toilet paper.
That's
Art and what you're able to do with the computers and on the net is going to look a lot different than it looks now. A lot of the tools are very Photoshop 2.5, and soon there's going to be Photoshop 12. And
Turn it upside down, Howard.
turn it upside. Okay.
Any good
Timothy
painting,
loves
see
stuff
that?
upside down. He wants paintings to be like rotating and like in very.
That's Howard's idea is this. Every painting should be in like a clock, face of a clock. And every minute it clicks this way so that in an hour the painting does a 360.
You could.
If
It's like
you
a
like it,
sundial,
you can
right?
stop it. So if you want to have one, it's not either or. It's not moving all the time. You know, like for a dinner party, if so and so's coming, you can have this and moving with that. So in other words, you design for the moment.
Yeah. Well, I try to make it part of the decade we're growing up in. You know.
what software did you use mostly?
Photoshop. Just that's what I did all the images on. You know. You can do anything on that program.
We listed everything. This is
Okay.
down to to salt. You know, monosodium glutamate was not added.
Yeah.
Very good.
Wonderful
It's
list
very
of credits.
fun, yeah.
Hey, do you want me to set up a new piece that I did outside while you guys are talking, while you guys are chatting, and so you guys can maybe see it? I can like, put it on the
What
lawn.
is it? Tell us about it, Howard.
Great. Yeah.
It's like the 100 greatest comic books of all time. And that's what the piece
Outside.
is.
Just go put that outside.
Yeah, it's just like it's big,
Where?
so it won't fit in here.
Is it in the car?
Where is
Yeah,
it?
it's in the car.
Oh, go get it.
Oh wait a minute.
Oh,
Wait,
I left it in
Oh.
my
left it
car.
in the other
That's-
car.
Yeah.
No, didn't you bring along?
No, I just brought along a few prints
Oh.
from Huck. Oh well, I'll bring it by tonight.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh well, folks.
You could follow us down.
Gotta
the
edit that
no.
part, you know.
Okay.
Cut that. Or
So, Tim, do you want to talk any? Do you want to cut now? Should we cut this?
Yeah, let's cut.
Cut it, cut it.
Tim, give
Yeah.
me 1 minute. Say something to your friends in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
To Simon. Here, sit down for a second and talk to him.
I'm coming back.
Some salutations.
Yeah, but we have to go.
Oh,
Oh no!
oh no.
Sit down,
I
Tim.
want you
For,
to, I was planning to relax and have fun. and
yeah, but
get
give me 1
inside.
minute on for Simon.
What?
For Simon Winkenoog and you guys in Amsterdam. Sit down and
Well,
talk
I'm
to them.
talking about you and you're talking about Simon, okay.
I'm not here for me. I'm for them.
Luke, I consider you one of the finest friends I've ever had, and he he's so enthusiastic, sometimes he barrels into your life and like a bowling pin and knocks everything down. Good for you. I love you, Luc, and you brought the most beautiful lady in Europe with you, and you're welcome here anytime.
Okay,
We go
but
way
say
back.
something for your friends in Amsterdam.
Well, Amsterdam, we all know, is the most free, future, humanist city in the world. It's that small little country, Holland. There's Germany, and there's France, and all, and England. And these sailors went around with skill. The Dutch knew how to navigate. They knew how to take that trip. And they never did it with war. So one of the things about the Dutch Empire, the Asian, no guns. It was done with trade, good things. It would take your vegetables, and we'll give you back Dutch clocks. But I love Amsterdam. All civilized human beings love Amsterdam. And Luc Sala and Simon Vinkenhoog. I've been called the Simon Vinkenhoog of America. He played the role very similar to mine of scholarly, urging people to fuck their heads up. Wonderful gentleman, writer, philosopher. Simon Vinkenhoog. Wonderful name, huh?
It's eye of the bird. Vink.
No.
Vink means
Bird?
vinken is a kind of bird,
Yeah.
a small bit,
Finch.
and eye means eye. It's the
Ah.
eye of the bird.
What means I?
Vinkenoog, eye of the bird, of a special little
What's
bird.
I? Vink? No,
Eye, to
yeah,
see.
in Dutch.
Vink is a.
I know what the eye is.
Yeah, but
I don't-
vink is a kind of little bird.
No, but what is the?
What's
how do
the
you say
word
it?
for eye?
Eye.
Oog.
Oh.
Vinkenoog.
Thinking, oh, that's what I wanted. Yeah,
Yeah, oog.
isn't that magical? I want to change my name to Timothy Optical. Huh?
Thank you, Tim.
Enough?
Yes.
Okay. This is not the real one. Then you change to this. It's changing, and every time you meet somebody else, it's a new
You
yoga,
learn
right?
more yoga.
Never do yoga by yourself. It's all right. You can sit there and masturbate if you want to. You do it yourself. Oh.
But if you don't have anyone to do it,
Masturbate. Oh, no question.
Got
No,
it, you got
I
it.
love to masturbate. I have masturbated a lot. You know. Ooh. Oh, thank you. I do. Thank you. Actually, in the real estate, it's multicolored, but we had to make it black and white.
well, we could do that.
This is Media Lab West.
Okay. Here, let me get that.
Inside there's a broom. What do you get for me? And is there trash?
Oh.
Trash, I think is helping her.
Owner's
Marijuana
markings.
there? No.
This is quite good.
Oh, now I can do it.
I'll give you a card. Okay.
I did it last night. Threw it in. Threw it working on this. But,
This is your media lab.
we're going to put a wooden floor here.
Oh, great.
We're going to have more shelves there.
You're so organized. Look at this.
This
I'm
is
like,
dis. This is dis. Oh, that's.
oh, I'm
organized.
impressed.
Yeah.
I'm very
This
impressed.
is chaos to the right and organization
Organization
to
to
the
the
left.
left.
And then
This is what I need Ron to do.
all these cartons there are the raw cartons. They're from 1960, 1970.
Oh, that's all good
We
stuff.
take them into the bedroom and undo them and put them in the box.
Get them organized.
Sorry.
So are you doing all that, or somebody helping you?
Goes to show
Do
the
you have
power
somebody
of
help you
archiving.
sort it? Do you have somebody who helps you sort it out, or do you do it yourself? You have somebody else to help you.
Sit there, figure out.
That's
500
what
boxes.
I wondered, right?
Staff of 10. I do it all myself. That's the nicest thing anyone ever said to me. Yeah, I do it all myself. Midnight. I had a lot of pain yesterday. I've never had pain. And they gave me 10 pain pills. I was up all night with pain, so I'm late. And I said to the nurse that I want to need some more pain pills. I just had them 3 days ago. See, here's this nurse, and And I've been a professor at 3 top medical schools in the world. She's telling me about my pain pills. And I was just like, any weak junkie, I'm trying to have to work on her to get pain pills. I said, and him,
Yeah.
I'm the drug
You're-
king of the world.
you're
I can fucking get any drug I want, and you're playing a game.